This is 3 News Daily.
Hello everyone, welcome back to 3 News Daily on this Friday, February 17th. I'm Stephanie Haney here with your top stories from around our area, and our top story continues to be the East Palestine train derailment. Today marks 2 weeks since the disaster, and the residents say they can still smell the chemicals in their homes. Now, there were 50 cars on a Norfolk Southern train that derailed in East Palestine, and Governor Mike DeWine held a press conference this morning to give another update on the water conditions. The entire nation is now paying attention because this goes beyond just a small town on the border of Pennsylvania. The Ohio River is impacted, and that feeds into waterways that stretch across the country. The Environmental Protection Agency and other government officials say that the Ohio River is being monitored very closely.
Something I've learned during this is the Ohio River is monitored normally very extensively. And so they were able to pick up, before they were able to pick up where that plume was. It was never thought to be very high, never thought to be very dangerous, but they could detect it as it moved down river. We do believe there's no reason to be concerned about watering out from the Ohio River, and there's never really been a reason to concern, and we no longer can get any reading at all of this contaminant.
Now we have more on what was said at the press conference on WKYC.com, and you can also hear the entire event there and also on our YouTube page.
We are going to get through this as a team, and at the same time, we are absolutely going to hold Norfolk Southern accountable. And I can promise you that.
EPA Administrator Michael Regan spent all day yesterday reassuring residents that they are safe as the agency's 24/7 air monitoring program continues and no vinyl chloride has been detected. But residents are having trouble trusting those test results.
If they don't have the data, say we don't have the data. Don't say it's safe. You're fine. Go home to your families. Raise your babies here, even though they're getting sick and having nosebleeds. You know, God knows what we're going to see in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Seeing the trains, even if they're not moving, the train track, all of it. Smelling any weird smells is really triggering.
A lot of people obviously very concerned. Now, families are being encouraged to use bottled water if their water has not been tested and to seek out testing from the EPA and the state of Ohio before going back to their homes. The CEO of Norfolk Southern has released a statement promising to stay in East Palestine for as long as it takes to help the village recover and thrive. And as we continue to follow the latest updates on the train derailment, there's been a lot of buzz all over social media about whether or not FEMA will step in. So let's verify. Here's Carmen Blackwell.
Will the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, give assistance to Ohioans after the East Palestine train derailment? We've noticed multiple reports across social media, so let's verify. Here are the sources that we use to confirm: Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, FEMA's Budget in Brief Handbook, and U.S. Senator J.D. Vance. Let's start with the governor. DeWine tweeted that his administration has been in touch with FEMA to talk about the possibility of the state receiving federal support, stating in part, quote, "But FEMA continues to advise that Ohio is not eligible for assistance at this time." Now, we did a deep dive into FEMA's website, and here's what we found. In FEMA's 2023 policy for disaster response, it says, quote, "Through the Disaster Relief Fund, FEMA provides individual and public assistance to state and local governments in order to help families and communities affected by declared disasters to rebuild and recover. FEMA also administers hazard mitigation programs that reduce the risk to life and property from floods and other hazards. FEMA stands ready to provide rapid assistance and resources in emergency situations whenever state and local capabilities are overwhelmed or seriously threatened." Ohio Senator J.D. Vance visited East Palestine. He says the mix-up with calling in the feds for assistance stems from controversy with officials on who or where to shift the blame of the train's derailment.
There's some tension between declaring a federal disaster and having FEMA come in and then shifting the liability of this accident to the federal government as opposed to the train company that actually caused the problem.
So, will Ohioans receive assistance from FEMA for the East Palestine train derailment? For now, at least, we can verify no.
Thank you, Carmen, for looking into that. Now, Governor DeWine also mentioned in a press conference this morning that although he spoke with the White House and requested that federal aid from FEMA, East Palestine does not qualify. NBC News reports that the White House is sending teams from the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC to take a look at health concerns there. And take a look at this. Another Norfolk Southern train derailed just yesterday near Detroit. Nobody was hurt and no hazardous materials have been detected as of now. However, Van Buren Township officials say one train car did contain liquid chlorine, but that specific train car was not near the overturned cars, and we're told that it was removed from the tracks. Now, right now, residents are returning to their apartments after a massive fire broke out in a Willoughby apartment complex. The fire broke out at the residences at Chagrin Riverwalk around 6 this morning. The building that burned down was new construction, so thankfully there were no residents living in it, but people from neighboring buildings did have to evacuate. Those residents told 3 News it was a scary situation to wake up to, and they had no idea if the fire would spread. About 20 fire departments responded to the scene and were able to put out the fire before that could happen. Right now, neighbors nearby are hoping for minimal damage when they do return to their homes. And we're following developing news for you out of Akron, where a police officer is under arrest on several child pornography charges. Canton police arrested Officer Michael Dillon earlier this week. They say he is on administrative leave in the Akron Police Department with pay, which is standard procedure, and that could change if he is indicted on the charges. Dillon has been with the department for 15 months. In Cuyahoga County, Joseph Greiner has been named as the new interim sheriff. He'll replace the current interim sheriff, Stephen Hammett, who announced his resignation earlier this month. Today is Hammett's last day on the job. And before we go, today is Random Acts of Kindness Day. And if you are familiar with Ricky Smith, you know this is basically his Super Bowl. He is the founder of the nonprofit RAKE, or Random Acts of Kindness Everywhere. He says we can all use more kindness. He says you never know what someone else is going through, and being kind to others is needed now more than ever. He especially wants that kindness to be spread here in Cleveland.
I think that we are great people. We're connected. It makes the city such a cool thing. But why not have a whole city just doing kindness today?
Ricky says he has a whole day of random acts of kindness planned, and you won't know where he's going to show up and do something nice. So be on the lookout for that. Let us know if you see Ricky Smith out in your area doing something nice and that Random Acts of Kindness Everywhere. And let us know if you do something nice for somebody in your life today, or maybe a random stranger. Thanks everybody for being with us for this edition of 3 News Daily and for being with us all week. Happy Friday, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday with more of your top stories from Northeast Ohio.